What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Tavern Talk. Very special edition this week. We are going to talk about my top 10 most anticipated films for the rest of 2021. A lot coming down the line, obviously, with everything going on in the world right now. Dates are subject to change. Things are probably going to get delayed, hopefully not. A lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline, though, if everything stays as it is right now. So we're going to talk about what I'm excited for. As Willis mentioned some others that I'm really excited for, but maybe just didn't quite get into the top 10. Starting with number 10, it is King Richard. This is the story of Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena, and tells their story and how they became who they are after being coached by their father. Big thing here is that their father is played by Will Smith. Is this going to be the role Will Smith finally gets his Oscar for? Probably. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. He'll definitely be a front runner, but I think, this role, just from what we're hearing out of early festival talk and everything, combines Will Smith's natural charisma, but also kind of the emotional arc that is necessary to get you in. It kind of feels like one of those triumphant sports, emotional movies that is just primed for award season. So, superstar Will Smith probably going to win an Oscar this year, and I can't wait to see the movie that he will get that for, and which, if all goes according to plan as of right now, will be King Richard. King Richard will hit theaters and be on HBO Max on November 19th, so be sure to check that out on the biggest screen you can if it's playing near you at a movie tavern. We're going to go ahead and jump into number 9. It's another movie that is getting some buzz out of the early festival circuit. Feels like a movie we've been waiting on for a long time after multiple delays. It is the latest from Wes Anderson. It is The French Dispatch. And much like another movie we're going to mention later on in the list, this has a cast list that is just insane. We are talking Timothée Chalamet, Lea Seydoux, Adrian Brody, Saoirse Ronan, Jeffrey Wright, Elizabeth Moss, Tilda Swinton, Owen Wilson, Benicio del Toro, Frances McDormand, Bill Murray, Liev Schreiber. The list goes on and on. It's pretty crazy, honestly. I can't wait to see this movie. Like I said, I feel like I've been waiting forever to see this. But the buzz it's also generating is that it's not necessarily like Grand Budapest Hotel or Moonrise Kingdom, some of his more recent endeavors, because this follows a structure closer to that of a collection of stories than just one through line of a single story. It's a love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life these different stories, with the title The French Dispatch being the name of the magazine where all these stories are taking place, and I'm assuming intersecting and connecting and all the fun stuff that Wes Anderson movies usually entail, but obviously looking forward to this for the visual elements as well. I mean, he's got such a cast here. You wonder how often some of them are being used, what type of roles they're playing, what type of characters they're creating. All kinds of fun questions to be answered with this. So hopefully it actually pans out this year and we get to see The French Dispatch on the big screen this October. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into number 8. Another running theme on this list will be movies that were delayed time and time again, and number 8 is no different. It is No Time to Die. This is the latest James Bond film. It is also the last Daniel Craig Bond film, and it's directed by Cary Fukunaga, who people will know probably from True Detective. The trailers for this thing have been spectacular. It's continuing the story that was set up in Skyfall and Spectre, and even, bringing characters back like Jeffrey Wright's character from Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. This is a whole arc to Daniel Craig's Bond, and I'm very anxious to see how he closes that out, how Craig, how it closes out his tenure as Bond. It feels like Bond has, or at least Daniel Craig's Bond has been kind of like hit or miss, hit miss, with Casino Royale being out of this world, and you go down with Quantum of Solace, up with Skyfall, kind of a little dip with Spectre, and hopefully we will end on a high note here with No Time to Die. I'm really excited for this movie. Again, I hope we get to see it. We're a little out, just a month out from this movie now if everything stays the same. October 8th is when No Time to Die is set to hit theaters, so hopefully we will see it then. Okay, number 7. Let's talk about Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho is number 7. It is the latest from director-writer Edgar Wright, and whether you know Edgar Wright from his collaborations with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, or maybe it's Scott Pilgrim or Baby Driver, whatever your association with him is, if you have a fondness for any of his work, you're probably going to be anticipating what he wants to do next. And what he's doing next is a psychedelic horror film, it looks like. Last Night in Soho stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Thomasin McKenzie, Diana Rigg, Matt Smith, Terrence Stamp, and a couple of twins you may recognize as the Weasley brothers. Last Night in Soho is about an aspiring fashion designer who is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer, but the glamour is not all it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker. This also premiered recently at festivals. It is set to make its North American premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, which begins this weekend. And so looking forward to hearing the buzz on it. Looking forward mostly, though, to seeing this on a big screen, and hopefully we'll be able to do that, if nothing changes, once again at the end of October. So number 7, Last Night in Soho. Let's go ahead and move into number 6. If you'll remember, I was talking about The French Dispatch a couple moments ago, and the insane cast list. This may be the only other movie that tops it this year. It is Don't Look Up. It's from director Adam McKay, following The Big Short and Vice with another kind of political satire. But the list of people he got to star in this is truly insane. The other notable thing about Don't Look Up is that it is premiering on Netflix. It will be in theaters as well as Netflix, but this is a Christmas release, and this is the only Netflix film that is in my top 10. Let's get to that cast list. Are you ready for this? We're going to start with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Timothée Chalamet again, Jonah Hill, Cate Blanchett, Gina Gershon, Meryl Streep, Ron Perlman, Michael Chiklis, Matthew Perry, Mark Rylance, Ariana Grande, Tyler Perry, Kid Cudi, Rob Morgan, and I feel like that's just scratching the surface. Don't Look Up tells the story of 2 low-level astronomers, played by DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, who must go on a giant media tour to warn mankind of an approaching comet that will destroy planet Earth. It will be interesting to see what Adam McKay is wanting to talk about with this. He's got just, this is also the guy that made Anchorman and Step Brothers and Talladega Nights. So I'm very eager to see what he plays with this time around, what ideas and themes and social commentary he's enlisting to kind of make fun of, but also like shine a light on. Netflix is premiering this hopefully in theaters a little bit before it lands on the streaming service, but you will be able to see Don't Look Up on Netflix on December 24th, and then hopefully we'll be able to see it on big screens a little bit before that. But that's it for Don't Look Up. Let's get into the top 5. Actually, before we get into the top 5, let's go ahead and run through some of the other films that are dropping in the latter half of 2021, at least we hope so, and some that didn't quite make the list, but that I'm very excited to see. A lot of stuff coming out this year. First one up is we have a Ridley Scott double feature that I want to highlight. This is The Last Duel and House of Gucci. Yes, and if you're seeing the trailer right now, that is the return of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in a movie together. This is the first movie they've written together since Good Will Hunting. So very much looking forward to The Last Duel. House of Gucci stars Adam Driver and Lady Gaga. So excited to see what Ridley Scott has in store for audiences this year. A lot of big blockbusters also coming out. Steven Spielberg returning to the big screen with West Side Story. You've got the sequel to David Gordon Green's Halloween, which is Halloween Kills, again starring Jamie Lee Curtis. You have Ghostbusters Afterlife from Ivan Reitman, who is picking up where his father left off. You have a new film from Jane Campion, Power of the Dog, which will also premiere on Netflix and in theaters. Stars Benedict Cumberbatch. He's getting a lot of Oscar talk for that one. Also on Netflix is Red Notice, starring Gal Gadot, Ryan Reynolds, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. If we're going to talk about more Oscar hopefuls, though, we have Spencer, starring Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana. You have Come On, Come On, starring Joaquin Phoenix. Also from A24 is Red Rocket, starring Simon Rex, and it's from director Simon Baker. Also have The Tragedy of Macbeth. It is only one Coen brother doing their adaptation of Macbeth, obviously, starring Frances McDormand and Denzel Washington. So very eager for that, it will also be on Apple TV. We have Belfast from director Kenneth Branagh, and then some of the bigger movies. We have Encanto, which is the new Disney film with songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda. The year of Lin-Manuel continues. Speaking of Lin-Manuel, Tick, Tick, Boom, his directorial debut starring Andrew Garfield, will also premiere later this year. And we also have Nightmare Alley, Guillermo del Toro's latest, and follow-up to The Shape of Water. So a lot of stuff to look forward to the rest of this year, but let's go ahead and jump back into the countdown. We are at number 5. It is The Matrix Resurrections, Matrix 4. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know that I've seen either 2 or 3, the second or third Matrix films, since the movie theater, and I was 12 when the first Matrix movie came out, so I'm not I wasn't in the prime demographic for who was going to see that, but obviously I watched it later, watched the sequels in theaters, and just am very intrigued by what this movie is going to offer. I don't know that I've ever been more excited to rewatch a trilogy of films that I haven't seen in nearly 20 years and kind of see what maybe I will get from it now that I had no idea was going on back then. So I'm excited to be able to rewatch those and then dive into The Matrix Resurrections. This is only directed by one of the Wachowskis. It's Lana Wachowski's kind of solo directorial debut, if you will. And just from the outset, you can see that this looks a little different than the previous Matrix films. Keanu is back, Carrie-Anne Moss is back. Lawrence Fishburne, unfortunately, said not to be a part of this, but you do also have Christina Ricci on the cast list, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who is really making a strong impression these days, being in Aquaman, the latest Candyman. He was in the Watchmen TV series on HBO. Big presence, and definitely seems to be carrying on the Lawrence Fishburne mantle here. We don't know a lot about the story, what this movie is going to actually be about. We get a little bit in the trailer that premiered this week. Hopefully they kind of keep that to a minimum. I'd like to kind of, once I've rewatched the original trilogy, go into this, because it does look like definitely a sequel, continuing the story that the first 3 set up, and kind of seeing the repercussions of that all these years down the road. I want to really take that in and be surprised by it. But yes, definitely catch Matrix Resurrections when it premieres on the big screen this December 22nd, I believe. It also will be day and date on HBO Max, but clearly this is a movie that needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible. Okay, let's jump into number 4. Number 4 is, while all of these movies could potentially be delayed and, could have a change in release dates, change in schedule, whatever, the one I'm not sure will even come out. There has been no date set, except for the fact that it's going to happen in late 2021, is the latest Paul Thomas Anderson movie. So right now it's being referred to as Soggy Bottom. Don't really know if that will end up being the title. Don't know what it's about, really. All we know is we've seen a couple set photos, and that it stars Bradley Cooper, that it is set in 1970s in the San Fernando Valley, and that it follows a high school student who is also a successful child actor. Nobody really knows much about this movie or when it will premiere, what it's about, what it's going to look like. It'll be nice. They'll probably drop a trailer like the week after I post this video, but we'll see. That's number 4. Before we get into the top 3, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell there so you get a notification every time we upload a new video. We try to do that every week here on Tavern Talk. Whatever the biggest releases of the week is, we'll try to review it and post a review. We have a different guest on to review each movie every week as well, so it's always a good time, always varying perspectives on the show. So definitely hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That always helps a lot. And other than that, let's go ahead and jump into the top 3. Number 3 is Eternals. This is interesting because not only is it the new MCU movie, yes, everybody loves the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yes, everybody's riding high after Shang-Chi, and we're looking forward to what else Phase 4 is going to bring us in terms of new heroes, new villains, new worlds, all that good stuff. But The Eternals is really interesting because it is directed by Chloe Zhao, who just won Best Director this past April for Nomadland, her film Nomadland that came out last year. And if you've seen any of her previous work, whether it be The Rider or Nomadland, you know she takes a very not necessarily hands-on approach, but very down-to-earth, very documentary style. It's very realistic, very grounded, and so it will be interesting to see that perspective applied to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm very excited to see this. Don't know a lot about the comic book, the source material, or anything like that, but just from the trailers we've seen so far, visually it looks to be kind of in line with what you would expect from a Chloe Zhao a Marvel movie, but story-wise, I have no idea where it's going to go. And we talked earlier about both the cast of The French Dispatch and Don't Look Up being kind of just crazy in terms of rosters. In this film, it's full of people, but most notably, you have Angelina Jolie as a character named Thena, Salma Hayek as Ajak, Game of Thrones alum like Richard Madden and Kit Harington, Gemma Chan, who is actually in Captain Marvel as a different character, but she is playing Cersei here. You have Barry Keoghan, who you might know from Dunkirk or The Green Knight this past summer, Kumail Nanjiani, Brian Tyree Henry, Leah McHugh is one of the newcomers, but one of the main roles in this movie. She is playing a character named Sprite. And again, I don't know a whole lot about this, about what the Eternals is trying to cover, but I'm always down for a good sci-fi flick, and one that kind of explores, bigger worlds in order to explore bigger themes, I guess is one way to put it. But I'm really looking forward to the Eternals. I hope it is surprising in terms of what it brings to the MCU. Like I said in our review of Shang-Chi, I was a little worried about where Marvel would go in the wake of Endgame and how it would kind of rebound and continue on and continue to feel fresh without feeling like it was without feeling like it and the comic book genre was kind of getting played out. The superhero movies were kind of becoming something that was a stale genre. I don't think that's obviously going to happen anytime soon, given Shang-Chi's box office, giving the hype for the Eternals. So I'm very anxious to see this and to see what Chloe Zhao brings to this world. So that is why Eternals is at number 3. Going into number 2, speaking of large sci-fi action flicks with big sprawling casts, my number 2 pick is Denis Villeneuve's Dune. More specifically, Dune Part 1. This is the first half of the Frank Herbert novel, famously adapted by David Lynch in 1984. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that movie. I'm debating whether or not to correct that prior to seeing Villeneuve's version of it. I also haven't read Herbert's novel, which I really, really wanted to do beforehand, but it's just, time didn't allow for it. But I'm now at the point where I'm just going to kind of go in cold. Obviously, the visual element is a big element of this. Denis Villeneuve has made gorgeous films like Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Arrival, and Prisoners. His streak is kind of almost unmatched recently anyway, and so really looking forward to what this has to offer. Again, I don't know much about the story, but as far as the cast that it features and the type of story it is and the visual element, I'm more than excited to see it. And speaking of the cast, we have Timothée Chalamet, mentioned that guy a couple times so far, in the lead, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, Oscar Isaac, another guy who's going to have a huge end of the year this year, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, just a whole cast of characters here. Yes, this is one that will be in theaters and on HBO Max on the same day, but Denis Villeneuve has time and time again emphasized the importance of seeing this on the biggest screen possible. I'm definitely going to try to do that. That'll be the first way I see this. Hopefully I'll want to see repeat viewings of it. Hopefully it'll make me want to dive into the novel and kind of figure out what is coming, what to expect now that I have these characters and this world, kind of a picture of it in my head. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump right into number 1. What else can it be? It is Spider-Man No Way Home, maybe the most hyped up, just unreal levels of hype for this movie since probably Endgame. So fittingly it is, the new Spider-Man movie. And obviously there's a lot of rumors, a lot of talk about what might be in this movie, what will, what won't. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the end product's going to look like. We got to look at the trailer a couple weeks ago, And yes, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is in it. You've got, a hint at Willem Dafoe returning as Green Goblin. Jamie Foxx essentially confirmed that his version of Electro is in it. Everybody's waiting to see if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to return. You can find thousands of videos on the internet dissecting pieces of footage, the trailer itself, trying to explain and build up confidence that all these things they hope are going to happen will happen in this movie. There's unreal expectations for it, honestly, but that doesn't mean I'm not pumped to see it. I've really liked what John Watts has done with his trilogy of Spider-Man films. I grew up watching the Sam Raimi trilogy. I actually feel like one of the few who really enjoyed Mark Webb's two amazing Spider-Man movies. I loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. But of course, Tom Holland is insanely appealing, insanely charming. You got Zendaya again in this one, back as MJ, and a whole cast of characters. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this one in seemingly a large role as Doctor Strange. And then of course you have J.K. Simmons, who was revealed at the end of the last Spider-Man movie to also be in this universe as J. Jonah Jameson. You've got that whole thing where Peter Parker's identity is revealed to the world. How the MCU is going to deal with this, how it's going to wrap it up, how it's going to introduce the bigger idea of the multiverse that has been hinted at through some of these Disney Plus shows. There's a whole mess of things going on that if you're not following along, it could be reaching the point where you're either in or out, you don't care, or you're invested to the point that the hype is where it's at with me, and I'm pumped. I'm psyched. I can't imagine looking forward to another movie more this fall. And so number one is Spider-Man No Way Home. That's it for my top 10. Definitely, it's just kind of like personal preference on that. There's definitely a ton of other movies coming out that you can look forward to, and definitely look for reviews of everything I've talked about on here coming to the channel soon. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing and liking. That all helps, and we'd certainly appreciate it. Thank you to the Movie Tavern. And hopefully you guys will stay tuned in. We got a lot of good stuff coming up for the rest of 2021, and hopefully a lot of good movies as well. So until next time, peace.